What's up, BC? It's Steve again, Harmless Rebel, and it's time for another vinyl update. This time we're going to be looking at some punk albums. It won't just be punk specifically, but it'll all be in that same arena. So, I mean, what would a punk update be without a little Dead Kennedys playing in the background? This is Give Me Convenience or Give Me Death, which is one of their comps that came out in 85? I think it was 80. Oh, I'm sorry, 87 is when this one came out. So let's just kind of jump into it. I'll start with a couple of 7-inches. I don't show many 7 inches. I don't have a huge amount, probably, I don't know, maybe 100. I may do another 7-inch update where I show some of my hard rock and heavy metal ones, but and it's not that I don't like them. I really like 7 inches. I just don't run across them that often, and I don't really go seeking them out too much on the internet either. But when I find them, I definitely grab them. So a lot of this stuff in the punk update, I don't buy a lot of punk anymore. I have to run across it. Like I said, I don't go and seek the stuff out. If I find it in the stores, I grab it though, and. Some of this stuff I've had for a month, some of it I've had for 7-8 months. It's been at least a year and a half since I did my last punk rock update. So this first one, I ordered a hardcore album. Actually, it was more of a crossover thrash album from a member of the VC, and they threw this in too. This is more of a post-hard rock band, or I'm sorry, a post-hardcore band, and I'm not talking what post-hardcore has turned into. I'm talking 90s post-hardcore. You're talking bands like Helmet. You're talking bands like Fugazi. And this band was in there too. The reason I'm showing this is they've always fallen more on the punk side, in my opinion, than the hardcore. And that's a Stomp Box. And this is a Holloway. No Woods remix and Straight and Alcohol remix, and these were both off their Stress album. This is a promo copy. Next up, a little rockabilly. Like I said, it's all in the punk area. There's going to be some rockabilly, some horror punk in here. What else? A little bit of pop punk, just kind of a mix of hardcore punk. And this is Stray Cats. I've talked about Stray Cats before. I'm a big fan of them. This is she's Sexy and 17, and on the B side it's Look Better Than Ever. This one is one I bought maybe 7-8 months ago from Rawk Records. This is a horror punk band, and this is a Grave Robber, and this is their most recent release, Straight to Hell. It's got Straight to Hell, Hunger Haunts on the A side, Beast of Busco, and Mummator, I guess. But the Straight to Hell EP. And this one, I can't remember if this is on black vinyl. Yeah, that one's on black vinyl. So this one is from a pop punk band. From the late 90s. They were on Fat Records. It's a Japanese band. I got into them when I was in Japan, and that's High Standard. And this is Love is a Battlefield, the Love is a Battlefield EP, and it comes with This Is Love, My First Kiss, Catch a Wave, and Can't Help Falling in Love. Yeah, and that one again is on black vinyl. Why do I feel like I'm missing one? Oh well. And then the last one, this is Black Flag, Nervous Breakdown. I am missing one. Where did that go? Maybe I'll show it in another video. But Black Flag, Nervous Breakdown. This is not an original pressing. This thing has actually been in constant press from what I saw since it came out. There's been like 23 or 24 different pressings of this. I don't remember which one this was. This was a 90s pressing of it though. But some really good Black Flag from 78. So let's jump into the 12 inches. This first one is kind of a mix. It's not all punk, but there are some definite punk classics on it. And this is the original soundtrack for Rock and Roll High School. I just picked this up a couple days ago. It's a gold stamp promo of it. It's, of course, Rock and Roll High School from the Ramones. And it's got Blitzkrieg Bop, Teenage Lobotomy, California Sun, She's the One, Eddie and the Hot Rods, Teenage Depression. It's got Brownsville Station, Todd Rundgren, Alice Cooper, Nick Lowe, Brian Eno. Just a really good comp. Like I said, the only real punk on here is the Ramones. And then PJ Soul's doing Rock and Roll High School, doing her version of it. And Devo, more post-punk, but still a cool one to have, and for really cheap. I don't listen to a lot of modern punk these days. I did get into it, the new school punk in the 90s. You know, bands like NoFX, Bad Religion, Pennywise. And a lot of those I have albums from. I've stopped listening to a couple of them. I've actually lost a lot of respect for a couple of them. And I'll talk about that in another video. But one of the newer bands that I've gotten into, and I actually don't like their newest album, but it's Rise Against. This is Appeal to Reason. This is, I believe, 3 albums ago. This is from 2008. But really dug this album. Next up, one of my favorite bands of all time is the Misfits. Ran across an original Caroline pressing of the Originals 2, which is kind of a greatest hits comp, or just a comp in general. Now on this next one I was really happy to run across. Again, this is an original pressing. This is the Misfits Static Age. And you'll notice there's no skulls, no death locks on here. The whole thing behind Static Age, a lot of people don't realize what this was because it came out in 97. And 97 was the first release of this album. This was actually the Misfits' first full-length album. They recorded it themselves and then put it out to the record companies, and just nobody bid, so it was never released. Over the years, they had done added songs to B-sides, and stuff from it has been released. You know, Static Age, Last Caress, Angel Fuck, Hollywood Babylon, Theme for a Jackal. All of these songs had been released as B-sides or on various comps throughout the years, but the full album had never been released. This is one of my favorites from the Misfits. Not only is it their earliest, but this is pre-horror punk. And not that I don't like the horror punk and the horror themes. I love that stuff too. That's just not what this was. And really good album. Again, definitely highly recommend picking this one up if you haven't heard this side of the Misfits. And I want to say it was recorded in 77 or 78. I don't remember which one. But again, it wasn't released until 1997. And like I said, that's an original pressing. This one I was super stoked to run across. I've wanted this for a long time on vinyl. Original pressings are super expensive. This is the Music on Vinyl repress. And it's White Light, White Heat, White Trash from Social Distortion. This was Social Distortion. The few albums before this, Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, Social Distortion, the self-titled, they had gone more that rockabilly route, which I love. But with this one, they went back to their early punk sound, and they just killed it on here. The problem with this is I've had 3 different CD pressings of this, and they all sound like shit. I can barely listen to them. It sounds that bad. And I've always wanted it on vinyl because I've heard the vinyl pressing is really clean, and it is. It sounds awesome. If you've never heard this on vinyl, definitely it sounds much better than the CD pressings that are out there. Next up, this is a band that's always cracked me up. They've always been categorized or put in there with the new school punk bands of the 90s, which I always thought was amusing. And it's one of those bands that people don't realize how influential they were, and that's the Descendants. This is Milo Goes to College, and this was released in 1982. If you listen to this sounds like 90s pop punk, and the reason for that is this is where it came from. Bands like Pennywise, Bad Religion, So-So. Bad Religion was around the same time as these guys. But bands like No Effects, all of those bands from the early 90s that had that pop punk sound, they got that sound from this album and from this band. This was Milo Goes to College, just an awesome, awesome album. And I don't remember if this is, let me see. This is a repress. Okay, this is a repress from '87. And then, of course, we've got, this is their, kind of the second wave of the Descendants after they got back together. Everything Sucks. And this one is a first pressing from 1996. Actually, no, this is a repress from a couple years ago. I take that back. And I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Oh yeah, you can. It's on translucent purple vinyl. I didn't even notice that. The shop that I bought it from, it was very dark. I paid like $10 for it. It's in mint condition. I thought it was the black vinyl version, which, I mean, makes the color had no bearing until I looked it up. The translucent purple goes for $30-40. It was super limited. I guess they did 500 pressings on that translucent purple, so I thought that was cool. Again, the Descendants. Next up, a little Psychobilly. This is one of those bands that the Psychobilly community likes to talk trash about, which always, I've never got that, because they're a great, great band. But this band and Tiger Army, for some reason, the Psychobilly community likes to brush to the side, even though they're hugely popular, and they've really brought rockabilly and psychobilly to a whole different audience. But this is the Horror Pops. I got into them when they first came out. I love this album. All three of their albums have been awesome. Female-fronted band. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but it's got one member of the Necromantics right here. And they're the two core members. They've had a couple other members rotate in and out. They do a killer stage show as well. Just a really, really cool band. But I found this one a couple weeks ago at a antique mall for like $10 or $15, and it was sealed. Just a killer psychobilly band, though. If you're into psychobilly, if you're into punk, highly recommend checking them out. This next band I absolutely love. It's a kind of a super group slash cover band. It's got members of No Effects, members of Lagwagon. I'm trying to remember what other. There's like 3 or 4 different bands that have had members. What's the other? Swingin' Utters. I think the singer off the top of my head is from Swingin' Utters. Killer band though. And they do cover songs. They take pop, country. Each album has a different theme, and they cover them. They do punk covers of the different songs. So, for instance, this is Me First and the Gimme Gimmes. Their album Take a Break. On this one, Where Do Broken Hearts Go? Hello from Lionel Richie. End of the Road from Boyz II Men. Nothing Compares to You from Sinead O'Connor and Prince. Isn't She Lovely? I Believe I Can Fly. Oh Girl. Mona Lisa. Save the Best for Last. Ain't No Sunshine. And is some of it cheesy? Yes, but in the best way. I just can't get enough of these albums. And I just like that in general. I like the Pop Goes Punk album, the Pop Goes Metal, or Punk Goes Metal, Punk Goes Pop. I love when bands take songs from different genres and make it their own. Disturbed did some a Genesis song. They did the Sounds of Silence. I really love stuff like that. Children of Bottom have done it a couple of times. But next up, Are We Not Men? We Are Diva. And this is them singing songs from Divas. I Will Survive, Straight Up, Believe, My Heart Will Go On, I Will Always Love You, Top of the World, Karma Chameleon. Well, I guess you could call Boy George a diva. Crazy for You, The Way We Were. This is the most recent one. This one came out the end of last year. And this one's just a comp. It's called Have Another Ball, the Unearthed A-Sides album. And this has a mix of some various genres. So you've got Rich Girl, The Boxer, Country Road, I Write the Songs. You've Got a Friend. Let's see, Coming to America, The Harder They Come, Don't Let the Sun Go Down on Me. And they've got a bunch. Like I said, they've got a country one. They've got a Japanese one where all the songs are in Japanese. Just a really cool band, worth checking out if you're into that type of thing. And this last one, I'm not going to go into these albums too much because at some point I'm going to do a video just on this band and show my collection. There's a few more of their singles that I'm trying to get a hold of before I do that, and one other full-length album that I want to get. But I would say in the next 4 or 5 months I'll be doing a video on them. And this is one of my probably my favorite modern punk bands. They've covered multiple genres. They started out as an anarcho-punk band. Then they went into straight-up punk. Now they've gone the queercore route, and I'll talk about that stuff when I do that video. But an amazing band, definitely worth checking out. And that's Against Me. Searching for Former Clarity. Total Clarity. And what this is their full-length album, Searching for Former Clarity. And then Total Clarity is a comp from that time period. It's got some demos from that album. It's also got some unreleased tracks that never made it onto that album. But some very good stuff here. And then Against Me is the Eternal Cowboy. So those were 3 recent grabs as well. That's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, I just wanted to show a little bit of punk. It's been a long time since I've done so. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you think of these bands. Maybe some recommendations. Other than that, take care, VC, and I'll talk to you soon.